Welcome to Iconic Women in Italian Wine on the Italian Wine Podcast. This recording was taken from a seminar that took place during Vinitaly 2022. Listen in to this unprecedented, unique session that included 2 competing wine writers and 7 renowned wine producers, sharing a stage to tell their stories. This was a meeting of hearts, minds, and wines, a showcase of the communication skills of women who were able to pool their resources and put aside differences to come together for the greater good of the entire Italian wine sector.
So let's just briefly, while you're tasting the wines, talk about these 2 lovely wines. The interesting thing is that they're from the same vintage. I think we see a lot of energy and harmony from both of them. I don't want to give too much away. I think you all have your own tasting notes, but maybe Monica, you have a word or 2 to say?
Absolutely. First, I just want to say how beautifully everything is showing, especially in that last flight. It was absolutely fantastic. And now we go into this other flight. And here we get, in both wines, a more robust taste profile with darker fruits, a lot more earthiness, more volcanic nuances in one of the wines, and definitely a lot more intensity overall. So this is kind of a very special flight of these 2 wines, and they're both united not only by the fact that they share the same vintage, in this case, both warm vintage. It's a warm vintage, I can tell you that. But these are powerful, bold, muscular wines that really show a strong footprint.
Well, I mean, I would agree that they're powerful, they're bold, but I also think, again, that harmony and that sense of equilibrium that I was mentioning is there. And yes, you see these, it's like everything is amped up in the same level. There's a concentration of flavor, there's a concentration of structure, there's a concentration of acidity. And when you put the pieces all together, they all fit, making them really fascinating to taste today and showing very well. I guess I will do the reveal maybe. Yes. So, okay. So first of all, again, I'm going to give you a little clue. Who thinks that the first wine is an Amarone from Marilisa? Anyone? No. Okay. Who thinks the first wine is an Aglianico from Elena Fucci? Okay, brava. And who thinks the second wine is an Amarone from Marilisa? Very good. You are all very good students. Okay. We have two 2012s. It's the 2012 Aglianico del Volturi Titolo from Elena Fucci and 2012 Amarone della Valpolicella Classico Riserva Fieramonte from Allegrini. Monica, do you want to lead here?
Yes. So I'm happy that everybody got a chance to taste those 2 wines. We now get to speak with the winemakers, Elena, dear Elena, and Marilisa. You both share amazing stories of bringing your regions to the forefront of Italian wine and communicating them. You faced special challenges in trying to explain Basilicata and Valpolicella, respectively. What are some of the key points to stress when you travel abroad? And what has been your experience promoting wines from lesser-known regions? How about we start with Marilisa, please?
So, thank you very much, Monica, for this question. And I think that we have to go a little bit back because it's 40 years that I'm traveling the world promoting Valpolicella wines. And I remember at the beginning of my traveling, Valpolicella was not an area that was really appreciated because Valpolicella was, at the beginning of the 80s, was known for inexpensive wine and the Valpolicella. And then Amarone was a very niche wine, and so not many high-end consumer really appreciate Valpolicella. So for me it was a big challenge, and I travel a lot, and I start in the United States where I learn a lot, because I learned that it's important to make good wines, but it's also important to be able to communicate. And I remember the first time I went to America, my importer at that time didn't allow me to go out to sell wine until I wrote down everything about the company, about the wine production of the Valpolicella area, about the grape variety, about the different vinification process. So it was a big challenge. And at the beginning, I remember that sometime in some restaurant, when I was very proud to show my wine, some people said, "Oh, we don't want to have a Valpolicella wine in our wine list." And you can imagine that I was very, very sad about this. And so the storytelling was for me what helped me to promote the wine. So to put the wine, the vinification process, and also the diversity that Italy has, including the appassimento process, that is one of the characteristics of the Valpolicella, really helped me to make this area known. Because even among the high-end consumer, Valpolicella and especially Amarone was not a very well-known wine. And I realized that the Valpolicella became successful when in 2001, one of the wine that I produced was in the panel of the 10 top wines from Italy, and it was during the wine experience. And I think that 4 women that are here tonight, they were in the same panel. So talking about Amarone, this is Fieramonte, is a single vineyard Amarone that comes from a vineyard that is located at 450 meters, so quite high in Valpolicella. And Chiara explained very well about the microclimate. And this vineyard combine good soil, great ventilation, and also fantastic exposure. And the vineyard is facing east. So my father always used to say that the vineyard that face east are the ones that have the most beneficial influence because they have the morning sun, so the temperature raise quite slowly, and so you have a good ripeness of the grapes. It was one of the first single vineyard that we produce. So we produced this wine from 1960 until 1985, and then we stopped producing the single vineyard because the vines were affected by the Esca disease. So at one point we took away all the vines, and then we let the soil to rest for 10 years, and then we replanted, and then we waited 10 more years until the vines develop the roots. And the wine is harvested. This is the 2012 vintage. It was harvested at the beginning of October, and then we dry the grapes and we press the grapes in the middle of January. Middle of January, we are in the coldest month of the year, so it takes 10-15 days the fermentation to start, and then the fermentation lasts for 2 months. When the wine is at 2/3 of the fermentation, we inoculate selected yeast because of the richness of the wine, it is very difficult to develop the last part of the sugar fermentation. So for the skin contact lasts for almost 2 months. And then we immediately, after the fermentation, when we separate the skin from the juice, we put the wine into barrels. And then we have the evolution of this intense, rich wine in barrel for 48 months. And one of the characteristics of the wine is this intensity, but also we never lose the focus on freshness. And in fact, we don't let the wine to have the malolactic fermentation, so the wine can keep this freshness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marilisa. Thank you very much. So I would pose the same question to Elena, but Elena, specifically for you, I would like to know what lessons can you offer to a young generation of female winemakers when it comes to communicating your territory? You have had such a special role specifically in this part.
Ciao Monica. Ciao.
Ciao Elena. Ciao.
Ciao. Thank you, Stevie. Thank you, Alison, and you, Monica, for this experience. For me, it's fantastic to be here with this special woman wine. For me, it's a dream. Okay, thank you so much. And my dreams in the world wine start in 2000 to 22 years ago, and because my family think to sell the vigna, my whole vigna in Basilicata on the Monte Vulture, and the Monte Vulture is our old volcano extinct, you know. And my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather had these vines, but they don't making a wine. They sold the grapes for the producer or consortio. My mommy, my daddy in his life are a teacher, and in 2000, my family think to sold these vines. In the summer of 2000, I finished the high school, and I think to study engineering genetics. But in September, I changing idea because I know my family with the vines sold my house, the house where I born, and when I living with all my family, and I changing my life. I decided to study viticulture and enology, agronomy, and I start to making a wine. When I started in 2000, the people in the world, they don't know where is Basilicata, where is Vulture, what is Aglianico del Vulture. And the first time when I started to making a wine, I think, okay, I have 6 hectares all together around the cellar, a single vigna, a single grape, Aglianico del Vulture. I decide to produce and to make a single wine, a single label. And born my wine, my life, titolo. And in my experience in the world is the same, Marilisa, because I travel a lot in my life. I travel a lot for explain and for to know for the other people in the world my region and my wine. And usually, when I describe my wine, I describe my wine in the modern, not modernist wine, because it's my idea of Aglianico del Vulture, and but is my idea of Aglianico del Vulture because I'm winemaker of my wine, and I work and respect the variety and the terroir where we are. The principal characteristic of Aglianico are 3: acidity, minerality, and tannin. Usually when the people think of Sud Italy, or when the people think a red wine in Sud Italy, they think a very hot weather, very strong red wine. But for the Vulture, this not is true, because we are in the middle, we are on the mountain. The Vulture is like 1,300 meters, and we are 600 meters on top. The Monte Vulture. We have every winter a snow, and the summer and spring are very fresh with high excursion night and day. And in the first time, the people 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the people in the world, they don't know this, because they usually think, okay, Sud Italy is very hot weather, very strong red wine, but for the Aglianico, we work for the high acidity, minerality. This is the typically characteristic of the Aglianico. Here in the glass you have 2012, the vintage, and for me is funny because is 10 years ago, and 10 years ago I don't imagine this in in the wine world. 10 years ago, I don't know my life changing completely in these 10 years. And for me, it's a pleasure and honor to say here. And sorry for my English, because I start to work very young, and I start to study English 4 years ago. And for me, this is crazy to speak. And thank you for your attention. Thank you. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Marilisa. And then I just have to say, it's a real pleasure to do this comparison of the same vintage, and we're talking north and south, so a common theme. And I love, as Monica mentioned, the freshness to this, but it's so interesting to see how your wine has aged, Elena, and also for you, Marilisa, to see the evolution as well. So thank you both. We are going to move on to our third flight, and we have two last wines. I won't have to give you a hint as to who the two producers are, process of elimination. You know, the interesting thing here is obviously we're talking Tuscany, and there's this beam of black cherry and black currant fruit in our first wine, as well as these fine but structured tannins and kind of a loamy earth character underneath. And then we see that same pure fruit in our second wine, but also a savory component that comes along with the dark berries and the fig. There's some olive and there's some iron. Any comments, Monica, from you?
Yes, I mean, we are talking about two wines from two vintages that are 5 years apart, both relatively cool vintages, if you'd like. Maybe one with moments of heat at different times. But it's also a different palette when it comes to grape varietal, that we'll discuss that. But these are two very important wines that come from a shared DNA, if you will, because the two families that made them are, in fact, cousins. So, I mean, there's a shared winemaking knowledge and know-how and expertise that is definitely broadcast across both glasses. These are beautiful wines. Every wine in this flight has been just amazing, and I've been so impressed to see all of the little differences from the deep south of Italy to the far north, and now we kind of go into this a softer zone of central Italy, and you can definitely taste the sunshine and the Toscanità, the Tuscan influences in both these glasses for sure.
The under the Tuscan sun, I think.
Yes, definitely.
Great. So let's see. Who thinks our first one is Antinori? Okay. And who thinks our first wine is from Priscilla, San Guido?
Well,
okay.
One of you didn't vote.
Well, and who thinks that we're tasting something else completely?
Let's do it again.
Okay, who thinks the first wine is from Antinori? Okay, more hands. Who thinks the second wine is from,
Second wine is from Antinori.
And who thinks the second wine is from Antinori? We'll do it this way. Very few. Okay. Anyhow, the voting process is over. The first one is the 2018 Tignanello, and the second one is the 2013 Sassicaia. So to let our producers speak, so Albiera, Priscilla, the two of you carried the honor, the responsibility of an important family wine legacy. And you have kind of a unique perspective that allows us to assess both the past of Italian wine, but also the future. So in general, I would love to talk a little bit about the direction of Italian wine, in your opinion. Specifically, Albiera, maybe we'll start with you. Something, if you would mention, is, we've seen a lot of growth in Italian wine over the years, and there's been a lot of success even during COVID. And how does Italy keep its momentum? How do you keep it exciting and competitive? You're taking a big legacy and you're moving forward with it in a very positive way. What kind of advice can you give to people in the wine industry?
So, thank you, Alison and Monica from remote. I think everybody's getting talking about the wines, so we'll just be very brief and concise. Compliments for all the wines that have been tasted until now. I think here we have an example. If we talk about the direction of where Italian wines are, we have an example of, with the last two wines, of the history of the past 50 years, where it has come from, and of the diversity and uniqueness of the wines that can be made in Italy, which is exactly what the future of Italian wines can be. It's the terroir, the diversity, the uniqueness of the stories that we have here. There are not many other parts of the world that can have these assets. We have unique and special varieties. Terroir still to be discovered. There are so many. I mean, we see how we know we know Italian wines, but still every day you get surprised by wonderful areas with local varieties, even with foreign varieties planted, that makes wine that really you put your nose in and you say it's Italy. And it's some parts I don't know, but they've got this elegance, they've got this minerality, they've got the sun inside. That really, what can you ask more for future? We've got a long past, which is not long because it's only 50 years, 50, 60, which wines that have, there are other regions that have a longer history, but let's say the recognability of Italian wines from other areas, other countries, have come in the past 50 years. And if you think lots of areas, lots of appellation, even a traditional one, we've had vineyards that perhaps have been replanted once or twice, 30 years more or less. So there's going to be lots of new things coming up. The important is that we have a vision that is centered in the quality, with the idea of pulling out uniqueness, personality, and distinctive stories that are linked to what there is also behind, because wine is not only what is in the bottle, but is also whatever we manage to explain and take around.
Great. Thank you, Albiera.
So nothing about the wine, because I think everybody pretty much knows what Tignanello is, but it's 80% Sangiovese, 20% Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc. It grows into our estate of Tignanello, which is between Florence and Siena, in center of Chianti Classico. The first vintage was 1971, and it was a bit of a turning point, at least in our winery. To give us also the courage to show what Italian wines can be, and a very close story to the one of Priscilla, as Monica said. It's family DNA, and there it goes.
Okay. All right, we're going to hear from our last producer, Priscilla. A specific question for you. Italian wine has always been, very often linked to families and multiple generations of the same family making it. How can Italian wine families safeguard against the pressures of outside investors, banks, venture capitalists, an increasingly competitive market? How can Italy keep its magic?
Thank you, Alison. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for including me in this panel. Like Monica said in the introduction, I am part of a family, I'm part of a team. And when they asked me to be one of the 7 iconic women, I wasn't very sure that I would really make part of this group, but I guess that I can represent an iconic wine. So I'm happy to be, no, come on. I'm happy to be here and discuss it together with you, and tell you a bit about the story of our family and how we exactly deal with these things that Alison outlined in her question. It's not easy, because all the issues that she mentions are actually a real issue for the family businesses. And you need to have a very strong sense of pride for the family enterprise, for the family project. really strong sense for the family values, and we have this great responsibility to carry forward for the next generations what we have received from our predecessors. And the idea is to do this the idea is to pass on something that we got in a better shape than how we received it. So we're kind of seeing ourselves as the guardians of something that we have to take care of for the ones that are coming after us. And of course, these broader family values also have to be combined with a certain financial project behind it, because financial goals have to support the family goals. Having a long-term view, we are maybe not interested in making short-term cash, but nonetheless, of course, we need to have a sustainable virtuous circle around what we are doing. I guess that trying to involve the family members in some way in the family activities is a good idea to keep everybody interested. We are quite lucky in our case because, as you might know, Tenuta San Guido is not just about wine. We have a large estate where we do several activities, so we have a possibility of involving different family members in different aspects. We have horses, we have a nature reserve. So in my generation, for example, we are 5 first cousins, 4 boys and myself, and some of them are more interested in wine, others are more interested in nature and horses, and others are just happy to make part of this group, and all together we try to do our best to carry forward this great legacy. Of course, it's very important that we also, in case of need, one shouldn't be ashamed to say that one can get some nice advice. There are some companies who do exactly that, especially in generation transition. You can get some consultancy on how to deal with this family generation change issues. And very important also for Tenuta San Guido is to make part of this group of producers called the Primum Familiae Vini, the PFV, which is all about this kind of problems, and being able to share our issues and our know-how and our problems with others that have similar situations. It's very, very comforting and also very interesting for us. So this is, it's very important. Thank you. So just 2 words about Sassicaia that we're serving today. It's 2013 vintage. We chose this vintage because we wanted to show a little bit of age, Sassicaia with a bit of evolution. We chose the Magnum format because it's the way how the wine can be aging at its best. It's a vintage that was very good and regular in the Bolgheri area, but maybe a bit less talked about because it came in between 2 quite challenging vintages for completely different reasons. 2012 was very warm, 2014 was very cold and rainy, and 2013 was a little bit stuck in between. So maybe it's a vintage that was not very much talked about, but we thought it would be nice to share it with you today. And we think for us, it's very much representing our style of production. So we're happy to share it with you today. Thank you.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin. Hi guys. I'm Joy Livingston, and I am the producer of the Italian Wine Podcast. Thank you for listening. We are the only wine podcast that has been doing a daily show since the pandemic began. This is a labor of love, and we are committed to bringing you free content every day. Of course, this takes time and effort, not to mention the cost of equipment, production, and editing. We would be grateful for your donations, suggestions, requests, and ideas. For more information on how to get in touch, go to ItalianWinePodcast.com.